Hello and welcome back to Blackwatch Intel. My name is Crashy, and today we got to talk a little bit more about Moira. I know these videos just kind of keep surfacing, and I promise you, I didn't know she was coming out on the PTR, so don't be mad at me. But I've had my time with Moira now, and I played her quite a bit, and I have to say, she came out just a little bit different than I was expecting. Where do I even start? I think, for starters, she heals a little bit more than I thought, and I knew she was going to heal a lot, and I knew that she had her healing comes out in the form of kind of like a layover healing. I don't know how to explain that. Maybe it's just like a flat rate. It's something I can't quite figure out yet, where it heals the target immediately and then puts the HOT on top of them and heals them for like what looks like 50 to 100 or so. And so her healing, especially if you're hitting multiple allies at once, is pretty consistent. It's pretty great. The thing about it is, and this was definitely the thing I was expecting from her, is that it doesn't last very long, so you do have to have some pretty decent resource management, and this is going to play along into kind of her shift ability, where you have to be positioning decently enough to where you're able to do damage, and to kind of tether yourself back and forth in and out of the fight, you know, kind of meticulously planning everything that you do to not only tunnel vision on healing or on doing damage, but find that perfect balance and that perfect positioning to where you're doing a little bit of both and being not only effective at both, but very, very effective at healing. So it's kind of this odd dance where I would find myself at times really tunneling on the fact that I was able to do some decent damage, and then I would like kind of look over to my left or look over to my right, and I would see that my teammates would need some healing, and I would have a full charge of my meter to go on ahead and spread that resource around. So proper resource management, not just meaning, you know, the ability to fill up your meter, but the ability to fill up your meter, and as your meter is filling, allow your teammates to take some damage to then, you know, turn over to them and heal them back up. It's been interesting kind of just learning the kind of subtle nuances to the character. Just like I said, just finding the proper balance of healing and doing damage. And all in all, there were some things about her that I didn't quite get from, you know, the announcement and from some of the gameplays that were coming out of BlizzCon that I've now been able to kind of see and understand now that I've been able to put my hands on her on the PTR. So first and foremost, her secondary, you know, fire, her damage ability, her siphon, whatever it's called, it has 20 meters of range, and that's at least double what I was expecting. I don't really know what I thought. I really thought she was going to have to get into the kind of the thick of the fight, and it also locks on much differently. It's really not like a Symmetra beam where it snags the target. It's kind of like a triangle of targeting, and if you're within that triangle on kind of like the center mass of the hero, you're going to be just fine. It's going to stay locked. But as soon as you kind of break that small triangle, it seems to kind of just disconnect, and you're going to have to kind of start over and recenter to, you know, kind of re-engage on your target. And it's actually pretty nice, because this is the part of her doing damage, which again, her damage is not that strong. It's good, it's consistent, but it's not super high powered like a Symmetra beam would be. This is where it kind of takes the skill and puts it into her kit, where you are, you know, kind of tracking your target and dealing damage and positioning well, and her shift ability. Now this one, the movement is weird. I really didn't know what to expect. It looks just like a blink, but it's really not. It's actually just kind of like a ridiculous movement speed increase, because you actually choose where you go, which is super clean and super fluid from a design perspective, where you can like shift yourself and go backwards when, you know, pull yourself out of the fight, or run forwards, or go nowhere if you want to try to, you know, go on the inside of a door and shift, and then just decide to stay there, and as they run by you, you know, try to gank them inside a small corridor or something. So there's going to be a lot of interesting kind of interactions in that sector of her kit that are really fun. And I think the most predictable thing about her was her ultimate. Her ultimate is pretty straightforward. It's a 20 meter beam, it does damage and does healing. So the way you use it is pretty much the way it sounds. You want to position yourself in a way where you can make plays by potentially chasing down heroes, but at the same time, you can really use it for heavy tempo swings to, you know, save your teammates. You know, maybe you counter it against a Graviton, or, you know, pop it against a Soldier Attack Visor or something of the nature. Maybe pop it against an ulting Genji, but at the same time that might put a huge target on your back, and then it'll make you the primary target where you're kind of just jumping around shooting a giant telegraphed laser. So it's going to be interesting how some of those engagements kind of play out, but definitely a really, really strong ultimate. I thought that a lot of her kit would play into the ultimate, you know, kind of her being a weird hero where you have to play around the lack of mobility or the lack of range that I thought she was going to have, and just kind of poke and poke and poke and heal and poke and play around the ultimate. And that didn't actually be the case, or that's not really the case that I found while playing her on the PTR. It really seems like she's amazingly well-rounded, and my original statement to kind of say that I think she's going to be good in about all comps is still true. I think she's going to be really good in dive. I think she's going to be really good in death ball comps. I think she's going to find herself in a position where she realistically could take over the Zenyatta niche. I don't think that anybody is going to take Mercy's place in the meta, and again, that's kind of a discussion for a different video, or a discussion for a video we've already done here on the channel, at least from my perspective. But I could definitely see her getting a lot of play in that kind of secondary off-healing role, and not only seeing a lot of play, but maybe being the best option because of the mobility, because of the heavy amounts of healing that she can bring. Because make no mistake, she does a lot of healing, you know, be that in her damage that allows her to refill her healing bar, which also heals herself, so that's less of a resource she has to spend just to keep her own health up. I.e., look at Ana having to throw the grenade at her own feet to keep herself alive and having to manage a 10 bullet magazine. I think, not only do I think Moira might make Zen a little obsolete, she maybe will definitely make Ana obsolete, and in the sector that, you know, you have to expect that there's going to be a little bit of power creep in the game, and I think that the devs have found themselves in an area where we're seeing a little bit of power creep now with changes, and we're seeing a little bit of mobility creep, and we're seeing now that some of the original heroes, some of the heroes that are already in the game, are going to start to slowly fall behind. And I'm looking at Ana now, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, you know, this hero is starting to fall behind, even though she has such a great design, and like, what could make her better? And in my mind, I just think, well, just give her the Junkrat treatment and give her 2 grenades and see how that plays out. You know, then she'll have one for herself and one for her team. And I don't really want to think that way right now, because I think that could be crazy, but at the same time, I think it actually could be kind of decent. So we'll have to talk about Ana at a future date. And let me think, what else can I even say about Moira? She has a Blizzard kind of smoothness to her, where she just feels perfect. You know, the ability to bring up her orb, you know, cast and choose between primary and secondary fire, or the ability to be, you know, kind of pre-firing your heal or damage and pop the orb and it come out as an instant cast, feels very fluid by design. Her movement ability feels very fluid. Everything she does just seems kind of seamless in the way that she interacts with the map and the geography around her. And again, I think that she could be, or is probably, the most well-rounded healer in the game, as where, you know, Mercy fits in a lot of comps because of her value. I think Moira will fit in a lot of comps because of her design, not necessarily just how powerful she can be, because I don't think that she falls under the category of being overpowered, and I don't think she is just innately, you know, a strong pick because of any particular, you know, like strengths. Like, I don't think she's strong because she has mobility. I don't think she's strong because she has strong healing. I think she's strong because of all of it. And so, I don't know, she kind of is like what I'm gonna call the Genji of healers, and I don't even mean that from the mobility perspective. I mean that from the ability to make smart choices and the ability to provide good value to your team with your kind of meticulous play. You know, do you spend the extra second to continue to do damage and try to pick up a kill, or do you go ahead and kind of concede your fight and break into the healing? As where a player like Genji would have to make these decisions. You know, do I spend the extra second to stay in the backline and try to secure this kill, or do I play it safe and, you know, kind of live to fight another day? So all in all, I think Moira is probably one of the better designed healers and heroes in the entire game of Overwatch. And I'm excited to see kind of where they go with her post PTR if they decide to make any changes. One thing that I will say is that it really felt like her ult uptime was like very, very often, and I was getting to the point where I would get the ult, and if I wasn't using it very quickly, it felt like a waste because I felt like I could get another one really, really quickly, and that could be kind of an issue because I do think she has a powerful ult. I don't really think that the ult itself is overpowered, but it could kind of hit that space where she as a character could be seen as overpowered for having such a, you know, a percentage of uptime on her ult or the ability to get it so often. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. That's really about my only gripe with her at the moment. I don't think her damage is ridiculous. I don't think her healing is too strong. I think it's pretty good. I think she has the ability to quote unquote main heal, but that doesn't take away the fact that you're still going to want a mercy. So we'll see. I think there's going to be some interesting potential for her to do, you know, different healer pairings, and that'll kind of come out when the hero comes out and when the meta starts evolving. So those are my thoughts on Moira. I think she's super awesome. I'm excited for her to come out on live and see how the changes are, you know, hitting all levels of play. And yeah, that's it. I guess leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Please do not leave without leaving a like and subscribe for future videos. I appreciate it again, and I'll see you on the next video.
Do you feel your bones start to shake? Do you feel the earthquake? Do you feel